Hi, my name is Kerri Allen, and I work with Klick Health on behalf of ASTHO. I'm proud and excited to be able to talk to you today about the best practices when interviewing with the media on behalf of your organization, your state, or any other entity that you represent. I've been working in journalism, media relations, and communications for the past 20 years and have a lot of experience working with subject matter experts from doctors, chemists, all types of KOLs and HCPs to Hollywood celebrities, executives of companies, and a variety of experts in between. So I'll share some tips with you that work for almost any type of interview. And if you have any questions, of course, you should reach out to ASTHO and get more details. So let me go over some news media interview best practices. There's no perfect way to prepare for an interview, and especially in this fast-moving environment where an interview can take place like this over Zoom, almost via text message, quickly over email. Some take more time to prepare for, and some are very quick. But regardless of the speed with which you'll need to prepare for an interview, the following do's and don'ts will help you get ready. So some of the do's. This may seem obvious, but always review background information. Ahead of any scheduled interview, your communications team or public information officer should be able to provide you with information about the outlet itself and the specific vertical, segment, or section, so you know what information is generally shared in that particular part of the publication, as well as your interviewer, what their style's like, the general depth of understanding they may or may not have for the topic at hand, and a review of any previous segments if it's broadcast or any other stories for reference. Pretty much everything is available through Google search. So if you're looking for a podcast that aired, you'll probably find it somewhere on iTunes or Spotify or somewhere online. Same with TV interviews, whether it's national or even a local TV, they should have stations and their previous segments online. So those should be cataloged and you'll get a sense for how the reporter talks, how they communicate, and the type of questions they generally ask. Of course, make sure that you're comfortable and know what the interview will be about and what the core topics are that will be covered. So you certainly don't want to hear, hey, we have an interview tomorrow with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. It's about climate change and public health. That's not enough information to properly prepare. What section of the AJC is it? Who is the reporter? How long have they been with the outlet? Where were they before? Just get a little more background information so you feel grounded and ready. And if the topic is something as broad as, for example, climate change and public health, what specifically? Why is it running at this time? And why do they want to speak to you about it? So once you get a deeper understanding of the background, the next thing to kind of keep in mind before the interview takes place is understanding the news of the day. What broke that night before? What's breaking in the morning? Does it affect your topic in any way? Will you want to refer to that during the interview? Is it going to change the tone or tenor of the interview? And then, of course, you'll note any specific community concerns and constituent concerns that come up that relate to the topic itself as planned, and then anything that might be happening that affects the news of the day. The second do, which I know we're all pressed for time, and sometimes it feels hard to make time to rehearse, but that's an important one to do. Your communications team should secure and be able to provide you with the questions that the reporter will be asking ahead of time. They don't always share them, but A, you can generally guess what the flow of the topic will be, and B, it's worthwhile to have your communications team push a little hard to get those questions in advance. That way, you can have them in front of you, you can have your key messages ready, and incorporate smart answers to those questions ahead of the time. And then, yes, you're going to have to grab a family member or someone from your team and practice. As awkward as it might be to practice ahead of time, it will be more awkward to stumble over your words or not remember what you want to say during the interview. You can even record yourself on video or audio as a practice run and give yourself some honest feedback. How did you look? How did you sound? Let a trusted colleague or family member tell you the truth. Better to have that done in advance than to see that later on the 5 o'clock news. So an obvious and easy thing to help you feel calm and prepared and ready is to rehearse. The third do that we always remind people ahead and during interviews is to stay positive. That might sound easy, but depends on how a question is asked, depends on the tone of the reporter or interviewer, the way they state something. It could put you on edge a little bit. Maybe a question starts with a negative assertion. XYZ amount of people are not getting the help they need in your state. Why is that? Or why aren't things moving fast enough on this issue? You can find a way to rephrase your answer so it doesn't agree with the question, but it also doesn't sound defensive. And we'll get to some of those tactics and tips as to how to actually do that a little bit later on. Do number 4, explain how your expertise and topic relate to the audience. So most of us aren't celebrities, and not everyone will know who you are or actually why you are speaking on this topic. Certainly the booker, the editor, the producer knows, and that's why you've been called to be interviewed. But you have to think beyond that person to the audience on the other side. Remind them who you are. It's not chest beating and it's not self-aggrandizing, but just remind them what your qualifications are. How many years have you been working in this area? How long have you lived in this community? Those types of things help ground the interviewer as well as the audience into leaning in and understanding why they should listen to you. And of course, in public health, this is really critical. Anywhere throughout the interview where you can relate your remarks to the community's needs and concerns, including things as understanding social determinants of health, issues driving health disparities in different communities, language and linguistic expertise, your education level, anything that helps a listener trust you a little bit more and understand why they should be listening to you goes a long way. Do number 5, hit your key messages. So similarly to prepared questions and background information on the interviewer, your communications team or PIO should provide some key messages or talking points for you. Some of these, depending on what they are, you may already know very well, and some might be new based on the topic that you'll have to rehearse and prepare for. So make sure that you get to guide the interview a little bit. A question will be asked, and you don't want to sound like a robot, but you can incorporate your key messages in a way that get across the thing you want to say. So gracefully transition from the questions a reporter's asking you to those key messages that you're there to convey. And try not to sound redundant. You can find a couple of different ways to state your thoughts. Okay, those are the things you should do during a media interview, but let's talk about things you shouldn't do. These are the don'ts. Number 1, don't speculate. So refrain from making any concrete statements when it comes to things that you're not 100% sure of or that may change in the future. And that might be the case in a lot of situations, particularly as a public health issue or crisis may be changing. New information may be coming in, or you simply don't have the topic or the information that you need to answer the question thoroughly. And if you don't know something, just say so. Calmly and confidently, I don't have that information right now, or we're learning more as time goes on. We expect the results next Friday, whatever it might be. When we think about not speculating as it relates more to crisis communications versus everyday planned interviews, again, it's imperative, especially in the realm of public health, to be really transparent about any given situation, show some empathy, and focus on, again, not speculating what is known, what is unknown, how you're trying to get answers, and in the meantime, any practical steps that the audience who you're speaking to can take to protect themselves and their families. Don't number 2 is don't say no comment. We see it in the movies, and that feels like a thing that happens in real life, but it's just something that happens in Hollywood. If you do say no comment, that does come across a bit negative. It comes across perhaps like you're hiding something or guilty of something. Again, as before, if you can't answer a certain question, just be polite and explain why. Even if a reporter is pushing very hard on you and potentially making you feel a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit heated, don't say no comment, don't say pass, simply say, we'll get more information as soon as we can, or the information we know as of now is XYZ. So don't say no comment, leave that to the Hollywood actors. Similarly, in that vein, the third don't of media interviews is don't lose your cool. We've all seen the clips of where this has happened and it goes very wrong for an executive or a celebrity or a representative or a legislator. Absolutely, during some interviews, you'll get a question that feels uncomfortable or maybe provocative or hostile. Maybe you're surprised and you're asked something that you truly didn't expect to see coming. So if that happens, keep your composure, remain positive. Just like your mom said, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. So you don't want to get into the battleground with a reporter. Arguing with them or calling them out on being wrong or biased is never going to result in positive coverage for you. It's never going to get the important messages that you're trying to get to the other audience on the other side. The story will become about this confrontation. So just stay calm, cool, and collected, and refer to the do's and don'ts we've reached so far. Number 4, don't answer hypothetical questions. This is especially true when you're speaking to someone on the phone or something that doesn't show your face or verbal intonation, that there's just the words. Because something that can be published in print or online, oftentimes the questions that the reporter asks aren't included. It's just the answer. So if a hypothetical question is given to you and you give a hypothetical answer, that can be pulled out of context. And again, that exposes you or your organization to a bit of unnecessary criticism. So if a question is very broad, do you think climate change is going to keep exacerbating situation XYZ in your state? Perhaps you think yes, but depending, as in that example, depending on how you answer that, bits and pieces can be pulled out in ways that don't actually answer the question in a way that you are 100% sure of. So just to be on the safe side, be sure not to answer hypothetical questions, just answer the ones that you do know the answers to. So that's it. Hopefully those do's and don'ts have helped you feel a little bit more prepared for your next media interview, whether it's on TV, video conference, over the phone, or in person. If you follow some of those guidelines, I guarantee you'll feel more grounded and have a better experience with the news media. Best of luck to you.